The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Wednesday, October the 29th, 2025. We are live here at CHD TV. We have a great show for you today. In a minute, we're going to be bringing on the one and only Andrew Wakefield and our Chief Scientific Officer, Brian Hooker. And then you're going to want to stay tuned for Sandi Adams from UK Column News. She's going to be sounding the alarm on eye tests. Free eye tests. So stay tuned for that. All right. So let's bring up the headline first so you know what we're going to be talking about. And it says, the biggest risk factor for autism, bombarding young children with multiple vaccines. It's a comprehensive review of 300 studies on possible causes of autism, identified vaccination as the leading modifiable risk factor for the condition. The authors of the 82-page report said that multiple vaccines given in early childhood may overwhelm infants' developing systems. They said their report dismantles the falsehood that vaccines don't cause autism. Good morning, Andy Wakefield, and good morning, Brian Hooker.
Good morning, Polly. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, okay, so that was a headline there saying multiple vaccines, but you both know the story of Billy, which was one vaccine with the MMR. So it's kind of getting there, but it's not enough for me. Andy, you're one of the...
MMR is a combination vaccine. It was multiple vaccines, it's just MM and R thrown together. So, a bit multiple vaccines, the more you give, the more problems you're going to encounter.
Yeah, but, I just want to warn the viewers that this whole thing of, well, I'll space them out or I'll just take one and here and one there. I need them to know that is and can be as dangerous as taking multiple vaccines. We've seen it in so many kids. So I just want to put that out there to start off with. But Andy, start off by telling us about what you found in this paper.
Well, first of all, credit where credit's due, Paul and Brian. You've got it there as the Wakefield report. I was invited by Peter McCullough at a very late stage. It was a great honor to be involved in this study, but the credit for this wonderful piece of scholarship must really go to Nick Hulsher and the Peter McCullough Foundation, who did the vast majority of the work. I made a small contribution, and that was to emphasize something which is, Brian and I hold dear, and that is this issue of age of exposure. The younger you get these things, the greater the risk. And that was something that was kind of put to the CDC way back in early 2000s, and they tested in the Atlanta MMR study, age of exposure emerged, particularly in African-American boys, as a major risk factor. And that's really important because it's a variable that's likely to get overlooked if it's not included, that age of exposure must be taken into account in future studies. But so it is a wonderful piece of scholarship. It's excellent. And I gather, and you may be able to reassure me on this, that X took it off almost straight away. I gather it may be back on again now. Do you know what the current status is with that?
I think it's back on. He said everything was back up again now, but there was some confusion and some panic on X, and it was taken down. But they can't stop us because so many of us were sharing. And Nick Holzer came on CHD TV on Monday to talk about that. Was not taken down, but his study here, he was censored heavily for a bit, but I gather it's all back up again now. So
after Elon Musk put millions and millions in to make it, uncensorable, that seemed to me to be a real step backwards. But I'm delighted to hear that it's back up again.
Yeah, so let's bring in Brian Hooker now for a second, because, we've all been working together for a long time. Brian, talk about what you think of what you saw in this study, and ask Andy anything you need to ask.
Well, first of all, it's a brilliant study and it's very, very comprehensive. Looking at the vaccine autism connections, there's over 135 studies that were analyzed, and the whole thing is a treatise on what has been studied, what has not been studied, and it really takes apart these, nonsensical arguments that vaccines don't cause autism. If anything, that's a mantra that is a lie. And the work that Nick Hulsher, Peter McCullough, Dr. Andrew Wakefield did, it really, really disarms that. Really, it takes it on directly and shows that looking at these factors, looking at other things that cue up the whole vaccine autism connection, like genetic risk factors that really, they load the gun, but the vaccines actually pull the trigger. And then to have Andy Wakefield on a scientific paper, back on a scientific paper where his very, very smart brain belongs, just made my entire day yesterday. Andy, thank you so much for doing this. And you reached out to me. I had kind of a really not so bright question back at a DAN conference, I think in 2001, about my son's case. And I also had a cousin who had really, really bad Crohn's disease. And you ended up, basically going to lunch and talking about these cases. And you didn't know me from Sikkim. And so, that started a major, major history and a wonderful friendship. And so all I can say is welcome back to the research world.
Well, thank you, Brian. I don't know how long that'll last, but my world, as you know, now is principally filmmaking, but it was a great pleasure to be part of this.
So what are we going to do with this information? So these studies keep coming out, and now we have this amazing one from the McCullough Foundation. How are we going to actually force change with this? Because you just said X tried to take it down yesterday. We're being called like complete nutters, and as usual, the usual stuff. How is this going to change?
Well, firstly, I think it's tremendously supportive of Bobby Kennedy's initiative in the White House at the moment. There's a lot of pressure on him to stop doing what he's doing, to get rid of him completely. And it's coming from both sides of the aisle, from people who almost exclusively are funded in their campaigns by the pharmaceutical industry, the vaccine manufacturers. Here, he's now got something in his armamentum that can say, no, there is a very sound reason for doing this. I think that, we could argue more studies are needed, but it also requires action at this stage. This is such an extraordinary crisis. And now we have this paper which definitively says vaccines are a modifiable risk factor. We can actually change the outcome potentially by being, first of all, absolutely frank and honest with parents, fully informed consent to vaccination, that if they do not want it, there should be no coercion, no bribery, no bullying, no threats, as there is at the moment, and that's got to stop. So we need to follow the lead that has been initiated by Dr. Ladapo in Florida, and that is no mandatory vaccination for children. And parents need to be told about this study. They need to be told about the potential risks, and then they need to be allowed to make up their own minds based upon the full assessment of what is known about risks and benefits.
And the incentives to vaccinate our children has got to stop, because that's, I think, where the bullying comes from. So here's a question for you both. We've all seen the health of the unvaccinated, the kids, the babies that are born without any intervention, no vitamin K, no Hep B, nothing, just breast milk, as I think God designed our babies to be. So what happens if we just stop vaccinating and we say, look, we're not doing this anymore. They're just pure poison. We are not vaccinating more. What's the world going to look like if vaccines are suddenly just taken off the table?
If we took vaccines off the table, then we would see an increase in infectious diseases. Definitely. But we also would see the fact that these infectious diseases are treatable, and the treatments and the treatment protocols right now are being suppressed by the mainstream media, by the mainstream medical associations. But these things, it's not the 1800s. It's not the turn of the century between the 1800s and the 1900s. We have sanitation conditions. There are so many things that were done right that were not vaccines over the 20th century. And really, if you look at the precipitous decline of mortality from these infectious diseases, where the rubber meets the road, all of the diseases were in significant decline and almost had reached nil in terms of mortality prior to the introduction of each respective vaccine.
Andy, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think this graph says it all, and you can reproduce this for a number of different common childhood infectious diseases. This was approaching zero by the time, zero mortality, which is a very, very good marker, a yardstick of the seriousness of measles. It was becoming a dramatically less serious disease in a very short space of time. And as Brian says, part of this is sanitation, it's virus-related factors, host-related factors, environmental factors. But that is effectively natural herd immunity. What we've done now by interfering with vaccination, my concern is this, and we saw this with COVID, is that when you introduce a vaccine that's imperfect, you put a genetic selection pressure on the virus to mutate and adapt, and you will then get the emergence of new strains. Pfizer saw that as a tremendous market potential. They would go on generating new vaccine after new vaccine after new vaccine, chasing the virus to really cover the strains that they had been responsible for creating. So if that happens with measles, and we haven't been using a less than perfect vaccine that has put selection pressure on the virus, are we now going to see the emergence of more dangerous strains of measles as precisely as a consequence of vaccination policy? And that is somewhat concerning. But as Brian said, and my personal opinion is that we need to invest our trust in nature and allow that decay and mortality and seriousness of the disease to play out naturally.
So what you're saying is nature will correct itself given the chance that we've lost that natural immunity with.
Right.
Yes, nature will always correct itself. Biological systems are self-correcting.
But we have the evil empires against us. And here's the problem that we saw on the bus and we saw making Vax 3 and all those other things is there's protocols. So we had the COVID hospital protocol. So the minute you go into hospital, you are in grave danger. Now, Brian and I went down to the Mennonite community in Gaines County, and we saw the same thing, the measles hospital protocol. And we're seeing it in Israel as well. More to come on that as we get more information. But there's something, they're reporting that the measles isn't the strain of measles that we got when we were children. And the minute they go to hospital to get help, their children are taken away from them. So we're getting into, and then of course the press jump on that, do they not? And say kids are dying of polio, measles, whatever it is they want it to be because of the treatment of these illnesses. Do either of you want to comment on that?
Well, I think that it's high time that that there is more exposure of what has been done, what's being done. They never really defined who patient zero was in the West Texas measles outbreak. We don't know what the patient was. Evidently, CDC did release that it was genome D8, which is not indigenous to the United States. It's indigenous to Europe and the Mediterranean region. But information is so slow in coming. And it's the CDC, which is now under HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., would not even put, correct information regarding the measles, quote unquote, measles deaths, the two girls that died basically from hospital error and not from the measles and had recovered from the measles by the time they had passed away. And they will not talk about alternative treatments for the measles. And, it's really, really high time that we shine the light on these individuals who are careless, callous. They let those girls die in West Texas, with very, very poor, very, very, flawed care. And that all needs to be exposed. We've never had this type of opportunity. But if you think that the ship in the HHS is righted by Secretary Kennedy being put into that office. No, he has a huge task ahead of him, and there's still resistance within. There are still things that are being reported on HHS websites that are absolutely false, the absolute wrong narrative. They have nothing to do with the health of children, and we need to expose that every day.
Gosh, that building, that HHS building is so ghastly. It looks like a prison.
It
Um,
does.
Right, so let's go back to the paper for a second, stay on that. So basically, Andy, the paper is saying the vaccines can and do cause autism, correct?
Yes, based upon the evidence such as it is, then yeah, and I think that on the balance of evidence, vaccines are the major modifiable cause of autism. You can actually do something about it, and parents have been saying this clearly for a very long time. They've been dismissed time and again, and it turns out that decent, proper, scholastic investigation confirms that they were right all along.
The parents, yeah, the parents are right along. Okay, so so let's go into this for a second. So what are we at, Brian? What 1 in 31 are we? I know it's more in
Right.
California. I mean, we don't really know. We feel like there's way more kids out there that are injured. And let's not forget, it's not just autism. We've seen paralysis. We've seen so much death. We've seen so many injuries from these vaccinations. So the question is, if we don't stop this now, stop the vaccine schedule, then it's going to go to what, 1 in 2, as Dr. Senes has been warning us for years.
Right. And 80% of all boys.
Right. So we have a huge emergency with the Billy and the Steves and the thousands of millions of those that are out there with nowhere to go when we, the parents, are not around. I mean, we're trying our best to build places, but honestly, when we're not around, what are they going to do with them? And my fear is that it's not sustainable to keep them, that there'll be something sinister going on to take them out. I'm going to be honest, I'm scared about that.
Well, we know that historically that's what they've done. You know, you look at the omnibus autism proceedings in the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. There were over 5,500 autism cases regarding vaccines. They binned them in the MMR vaccine or thimerosal-containing vaccines, despite the fact that other vaccines are implicated and were implicated in those cases. And then they committed fraud, basically to say that vaccines never cause autism, even though they had only studied one vaccine component and one vaccine, the MMR vaccine. So we know the reason why they committed that fraud is if they had to award claims to that 5,500 families, then that would have bankrupted the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program many, many, many times over. You know, I'm a parent. I don't care. You know, clean up your damn mess. If it bankrupts some type of system, then, you know, rather than committing fraud, which the fraudsters from Agent Orange, Colleen Boyle, Frank DiStefano, and Marie McCormick all were the same fraudsters on the autism vaccine question. You know, it is time really for a day of reckoning for those individuals and to clean up the mess. You know, we're not going away. Polly, are you going away?
We're not.
No, we're not going away. And so, you know, they need to address this head on. It's already cataclysmic. It already, you know, rivals the GDP for the United States to take care of these individuals. So, you know, you look at things that are modifiable, as Dr. Wakefield has said. We need to modify those post haste because we are not prepared for what is coming otherwise.
Yeah. So Andy, what would you like to see happen now? This paper is out. Obviously, it's censored everywhere. Parents are still lining up to get the shots for the kids because they can't hear us. What would you like to see happen now?
Well, it needs to be action. It's no good saying, oh, this must, you know, be the impetus to do further studies. Yes, it should be, but that doesn't mean that we should not act. And acting means fully informed consent, no obligation for vaccination. They've only got themselves to blame. This is the point of all this, that they're critical of you and me and Brian and this conversation and this paper. They've only got themselves to blame as they double down on the errors that they've made and compounded over the years. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. It's time to stop. It's time to admit that there is a major problem. and that we can do something about that problem. My other concern is for those who are already injured, that they don't get lost. I think we're now beyond the tipping point in terms of what is going to happen next. And ultimately, we know this is going to play out and vaccines are going to be identified as a major culprit. In the meantime, what happens to those children who've been denied compensation in the vaccine injury compensation system and who are really the victims on the battlefield of man's sort of quest to conquer infectious disease? We mustn't leave those children behind. I think that, for my part, one of the things that has made the greatest impact is the ability of film to get out there and tell people an important story. This is a very dense, complex situation. What film is able to do is to simplify it, to make it entertaining, and that's very important in a film, that you have to have an audience who are interested, so entertain them and then educate them about the facts. And it's had a huge impact, Vax in particular, and Dell's latest film, An Inconvenient Study, hugely important. More so because, I mean, there are the results, the fact that problems, diseases, chronic diseases in childhood were significantly more common in the vaccinated and unvaccinated, as has been found time and time again by authors, including you, Brian, that what it does is to underline the cynicism behind this whole thing. Here we have a senior scientist, an infectious disease doctor, promising to publish whatever the results, whether they're positive or negative, support the vaccines or not, and then going against that. And 3,500 people die from asthma every year in this country. Asthma was identified as a risk in that study. If he came forward and published, that may save lives, but his job was more important. His position was more important. That I find contemptible, and I disgrace. And so we'll keep making films and telling the stories as we can. And in the meantime, the government needs to act.
Now, you set up Wakefield Media Group because, I mean, we had to become the media, did we not? Because the media are obviously one of the biggest culprits in all of this, sponsored by Big Pharma. Tell us about Wakefield Media Group and what you're working on now.
Well, this is really a repository for the films that have been made, so people can go there to watch the movies. It's also bringing attention to this very issue of what do we do with those children who have been injured, those families that have been affected, have been destroyed, and to tell that story in the next movie. In fact, it's a Western. It's not about vaccines, but it's about survival of a mother and her child in the most hostile environment, known to man. And it is, it really is a story about the power of a mother's intuition and her love for a child, and the lengths that she will go to protect them from a world that hitherto doesn't understand her child, doesn't love them, doesn't care. And it has a happy ending. I know you and I discussed this years ago, Paul, but the world needs a few happy endings right at the moment. So this is one of them.
We all need happy endings. Andy, just quickly, I want to tell everybody that you were talking about the power of film. And to me, nothing was more powerful than the movie Who Killed Alex Bordalakis, which we shot on iPhone 4 as it was happening, having no idea it was going to end up like we were just recording it on our little iPhone 4s, and people really need to see this movie and tell the viewers why this had such a big impact.
Well, it had a profound impact on you and I. We were, like you say, we were not expecting this. And here was a child who was chained to the bed. He was huge. He was violent. He had been put on 28 psychotropic medications, each one making him worse and worse and worse. And medicine had no answer for his autism. Eventually, the tragedy was that his mother ended up killing him and trying to kill herself, as did the godmother, because there was no way out. They were trapped in this nightmare, and she could not bear to witness her child suffering any longer. The local media portrayed this as a mother hates her child and killed him. No, that wasn't the case at all. And so we told the film, and she went to prison. She didn't succeed in killing herself. She went to prison, and she was still there awaiting her trial. 4 years later, when the lawyer called me and said, I got a call the other day from the state's prosecutor who was responsible for putting her away. And he said, I understand a film has been made about this. Who killed Alex Bordalakis? I'd like to see it. So it was sent. The film was sent to him. He called back a week later and said, we've seen the film. We can no longer prosecute this case in the same way. She will be released from prison next week. And that's what happened. It was the first time in American legal history that a film had changed the outcome of a case like this. It was extraordinary, and what it's underlined to you and I is the power of film, the extraordinary power of film to change people's minds. It was in no way to advocate for harm to children or suicide. It was about the power of film, and we've pursued that ever since.
And so you can see all that if you go to wakefieldmediagroup.com. And to our viewers, we're just going to wrap this up now. This study, let's go back to the study again. Where can people see this? Can they read the full paper, 80 pages or whatever it may be?
Yes, they can, and we'll get the links to you, but it's on Substack and elsewhere. So
thefocalpoints.com is where you go. And we are so grateful to McCullough Foundation and Nick Holter and all of the people involved in that for the work that they've done. Andy, you as well. And to our viewers, for those coming to the conference, we are sold out, but I'm very excited that we've got a measles panel, and we're going to be exposing everything that happened. Andy, you're on that, Brian's on that, Dr. Corey's on that. The Mennonite community are coming up. We've also got the Vax reunion. I can't believe it's 10 years since we were making that.
You don't look a day older.
Incredible.
My goodness. So that'll be fun, I'm sure. And it's going to be a great event. And you can still get tickets online to watch it online if you can't. Well, you won't be able to come now if you haven't got tickets, but we're looking forward to seeing all of you there. So Andy Wakefield, thank you for all the work that you do. Brian, as always, our favourite Chief Scientific Officer. Thank you for all the work you do in your science department as well.
We'll be there. We'll be there at the conference. We'll have a booth, Paul, so tell people to come and see us.
And what will the booth be called?
It'll be Wakefield Media Group.
Oh, okay. And you'll be there with your crew as well. So yeah, everyone will go and say hi to Andy. And I mean, there's going to be so many people there.
Well, we've got a new Wakefielded T-shirt, the adjective.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, come and buy one.
And
dude, I get one for free, right?
Brian, you get.
Okay, yeah. Get just pull an extra large for me. That would be great.
That'll be a medium.
I haven't been completely Wakefielded, but I've been Wakefielded enough to at least get a T-shirt.
You deserve one.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And Dr. Suzanne's going to be there. And my favorite doctor of the moment is Dr. Ben Edwards. Have you met him yet, Andy?
I have, yes.
He's a really good doctor, is he not, Brian? I mean, that is.
He is. He took measles. He took measles by the tail, and he was the one that cared for West Texas, for Gaines County, Texas, and so it's so exciting that he's going to be at the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see you all. All right, well, Andy Wakefield, thank you for being on this morning. Brian Hooker, thank you for being on this morning. And we'll get you guys back on as things develop. It's all going in the right direction.
Okay, boss.
Right. Thank you, Polly.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go to Sandi Adams from the UK. She's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Sandi. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Polly. Thanks so much for having me on again.
Well, the viewers know how much I love UK column news. I just love you guys. You're such a fantastic team of really good people. And I just watch all the time to see if I can see you, because you always come up with the most amazing information. And I spotted you talking about this eye testing. So can you tell the viewers, I think it's so important you listen to this. Everybody listen up now. Sandi.
Yes, I mean, somebody drew my attention to this because their child had been put into an eye test at school, and the parents hadn't given their consent. Now, the charity that's running this, and it all sounds very benevolent. It's and their whole take is that children during COVID-19 were forced onto screens, and that it's had an impact on their eyesight. So very much problem reaction solution to me. So I looked at it because someone said, look, we don't know why they're taking, because they can take biometric data. Obviously, it's your eyes, it's iris, biometric data. It's a bit sensitive, and it's being done without consent in the UK. And the Lions are putting themselves out as a benevolent charity that are doing this. But behind that is Lions Kids Site USA. And what really sort of worries me a bit is that when you look at, that's the Lions Kids Site USA website, when you look behind that, they have a lot of partners, including Johnson & Johnson, massive global partners. So this isn't some sort of rather benevolent little charity in the UK doing children's eyesight tests for free to help the children. There's something deeper behind this. And what I was really worried about is that when I went into the privacy policy of Child Sight UK, I found that they are actually saying they do share data with third parties. And as you can see, that little bit I've highlighted. Now, in the UK, the privacy policy admits to processing personal and special category data, e.g. screening results, and says information may be shared with third parties as a result of these services. But it gives no details about what data and who receives it, or the retention limits. So in the US, apparently, their website with Kids Eyesight consistently said that they require parental consent and prohibit transmitting children's names or addresses. But there's, the devices capture ocular images, which is worrying because obviously that's iris data, and the measurements for vision assessments, which are health data. So whether these are biometric identifiers, we don't know, because there's certainly not enough information there. And what really is worrying is that the whole thing that with children's data is it's very sensitive, and in the UK, GDPR requires a clear lawful basis and extra protections of biometric data, and children are covered really by something called the ICO, which is the Information Commissioner's Office of Children's Data, where children get protected a bit more from from what's any data that may be taken from them. So we have to be really careful about this. When you've got a charity posing, and they're actually they're training up volunteers to do these eye tests. So it looks, in the UK, it all looks very much charity based and benevolent, but behind it is this big American thing with Johnson & Johnson and all the global partners. And I'm just very, very worried about this. And I think we should be. And I think we have to ask questions. We have to ask questions. And parents need to, if they can find out from their schools, if the Lions charity is coming in and doing these tests, they need to find out what lawful basis and consent. Are you using explicit parental consent? They're not in England. Data fields. Where is this all going? So you can see that really this needs a lot more scrutiny, Polly.
You're right, Sandi, and that's why I think it's so important to bring on. Also raises the other thing is that we've got to continue to keep thinking. I know when we were kids, we were taught up to obey authority and all that kind of stuff and not question, but you've got to start, there's no such thing as a free lunch, as they say. So when they come into your school and say, we're getting free eye tests, honestly, does your child even need an eye test? I mean, I remember, Sandi, I was telling my mum, please can I have glasses? Everyone's got glasses. I want glasses. And she was like, well, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. They're going to weaken if you get glasses. So we got to think, haven't we? Do you need...
And there is this thing where the responsibility is taken away from the parents yet again. And parents, if they're concerned, they take their children for an eye test, or they do it through, at the moment, the NHS have got eye screening. Whether you trust the NHS or not, there's always alternatives. Why hand it out to a third party? I don't get it. And I'm very, very sceptical.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you did the research on this, Sandi. Thank you. And you do so much research on so many different things. What's going on in England with the BRIC card, with the whole like digital ID there? Because we're not hearing too much of it over here. But it's watching UK column, it's fast approaching, correct?
Well, the thing is that you know that there's an even bigger picture behind that. I think the BRIC card itself, you know, is obviously something that you know is a thing, you know, but the infrastructure is all there. You know, we're already being data harvested and data mined, and we've got all the biometrics in shops. You know, we've got facial recognition, we've got surveillance cameras, and everything is all interconnected. And we're finding that the whole biometric data is beginning to be collated into one place. Now, the only thing they need is this BRIC card to almost get us to give consent to it. At the moment, it's without our consent, and that's why we have to really fight the whole BRIC card thing. And you know, the data centres. I did a thing earlier this week on UK column about data centres, because they're putting up all these data centres all over the UK, which they have in America, where all the data has to be stored, and these data centres are dangerous because they're toxic and they can burst into flames. And not only that, if we can prevent the data centres from getting planning permission, they can't store all the biometric data that they need, your health data, your financial data, everything about you will be in one place. And that's the problem with this this consolidating of data. That we won't have any agency over, and that's a big problem also, because there's a document at the moment, and I'm going to flag it up on UK column this week. It's really the agentis thing, the AI agentis, and what that means is that they're giving agency to AI to do things that normal human beings would do. For instance, in our you know, our social services, our NHS, within the normal sort of government bodies, and all of this is being taken over for the AI to do things like, you know, our normal government, everything to do with the way things work normally, where you've got people in government offices dealing with things, you know, the cabinet office, whatever. All of this will be dealt with by AI. So we're giving them agency to deal with us, and it will be getting rid of human beings. And why this is being agreed to, it's a big thing that's happening, but it's a document that was agreed by Berlin and Ukraine. Now, this is, you know, this is the bigger picture behind the whole Ukraine thing, is that there is Palantir are in the Ukraine building this whole system of global governance under agency. So AI takes the agency away from the human beings. That's a big problem. So tune into to UK column on Monday. I'll be talking about this. Yeah.
Okay, and so just so the viewers know, UK comes 3 times a week. It's I'm on Central Time, so I watch it at 7 in the morning, I think, or something like that. But I religiously watch it. I absolutely, it's my favorite outside of CHD TV. My favorite play. You guys are just on the ball on it.
Yeah.
Going back, just before I let you go, because I know I didn't tell you we were going to talk about this, but I'm just interested. How are they selling the digital ID to the people? Because so many people are like, it's great, we're going to get rid of immigrants or legal immigrants and violent people. How are they selling it?
Well, they're saying it's to protect us, you know, that actually everybody has to be logged and monitored, and that you won't get illegal immigration. But I mean, bearing in mind our government are responsible for bringing the illegal immigration in, that is a nonsense, and we know that. And they're selling it as it's good for you, but the people aren't buying it. They're really not buying it at the moment in the UK. There's massive opposition against it, and you know, they're just making it's convenience more than anything else. It's more convenient, you know, to be able to just verify as soon as you want to buy something, or as soon as you want to even open up your computer or whatever the world will be living in is a zero trust world where you have to verify everything before you are able to access goods and services, and that's the way we're looking at it. And what they will try and do is say, well, it's, you won't be able to access this unless you sign up to digital ID. And I think it's up to the people. I mean, I did sort of do a thing on UK Column about this, I think a couple of weeks ago, is that there is always another way. And so long as we keep the avenue open to using paper and saying, well, I don't have a smartphone, I don't have a computer, play dumb, and there's always another way, because they have to leave that way open at the moment, because there's a vast amount of people that don't access digital stuff like, smartphones. Older people, people who are neurodivergent, sometimes don't want to use it. So they have left that window of opportunity open to people to use it, and it's always in the small print. Is if you can't do this, find another way, and you click on that, and there's always an alternative way. I did it with my driving license. I didn't want my facial recognition to be taken with my driving license, and I managed to do it on paper down at the post office, and that was fine. But there are other ways, and there's other ways. There's another example where a friend of mine didn't want to sign up to the NHS app company that was if you went to your local GP, you have to register with a third party agency in order to access a doctor's appointment. And she went in, she said, look, I don't know who these people are. I'm not going to register to this app. Why should I? I want to deal with my GP, just one-to-one, and give him my data. He's got my records. I don't want to share anything with another third party. And she kicked up a fuss, and immediately they said, okay, you don't have to do that. You can go straight to the doctor. So just, make a noise, be really, really belligerent, and ask for what, demand what you want. And you don't want all this. And we just have to keep chipping away.
We do. We have to stand firm and not settle, Sandi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so our viewers will be tuning in to your UK on Monday, which is, as I said, there's actually no way our clocks go back. So we'll be back together on the same 6-hour time difference. If you're
okay.
So you already have your clocks have changed.
1 p.m. GMT, and it's for an hour, and it's Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm on a Monday with Brian and Ben Rubin, and then on Tuesdays, I think it's. I know on Wednesdays it's it's Vanessa Beeley with Mike and possibly Charles, and then on Fridays you usually get the lovely guy from America, Mark. I've got his name. Mark Anderson, and we have the other guy from America as well.
I know exactly. I'm terrible names, but it's really good, guys. You're going to be really entertained. It's good to do while you're having your breakfast. You can listen to it, and then you see when that finishes, you then tune into CHD TV. It's perfect. We've got you all set up. Yeah. Sandi, thank you for everything you do. I watch you a lot, and I'm so grateful for your research and sounding the alarm on so many things. Thank you, Sandi.
What you guys do, I love children's health defence, and I'm always there for you. And if you ever want me to do anything for you, I'm absolutely there. I love it. I love the work you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sandi Adams.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, everybody. So we'll see you tomorrow. Actually, no, tomorrow is Dr. Mel Nass with Dr. Pierre Corey. So that's going to be happening tomorrow. So we'll see you soon. Countdown to the conference. Speak soon. Okay, we're live.
Hello.
Tell everyone your name.
My name is Tulu.
And who are you?
Sean.
And how old are you?
5.
And how many languages do you speak? Too many.
3.
3. And how many vaccines have you had?
None.
That's obvious, isn't it? That is obvious.
Yeah.
All right, Mama, take it away. Talk to us about why you had a vaccine when you were pregnant.
Well, I had initially declined it. When it was offered to me, I said no thanks, and I was in the room with my ex, and when I declined it, the OBGYN doctor was in utter shock. We spent about 15-20 minutes discussing.
Which one was it he was offering you?
Well, they didn't tell me it was the Tdap. They said, oh, it's just whooping cough. If you don't take it, your son's going to die. And I had initially said, no thanks. And then after 15-20 minutes of going back and forth, my son's father sort of pressuring me with the, doctor using all this fear tactics and this and that, I finally agreed to getting it. Big mistake of my life.
How many weeks pregnant were you?
I don't quite remember. I mean, I was doing so great. My pregnancy was wonderful. I was wearing 5-6-inch heels, working 2 jobs.
You wore 6-inch heels when you were pregnant.
Oh yeah, I was doing I was doing really good during my time during my pregnancy. And then I got that shot and I immediately reacted. About 5 to 6 days later, I could not wear heels anymore. My whole body was experiencing inflammation, pain, like arthritis all throughout my body. And I couldn't work anymore, like a week later. And I couldn't even, it was like I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I felt.
Were you worried about the baby?
Yeah, and it affected so I must have been 35 weeks when I got that vaccine. It was offered to me a little bit later, if I recall. I was 35 weeks. So my son was born at almost 37 weeks. But I, of course, felt, the side effects of the vaccine. I didn't realize I had gotten a Tdap. I didn't, and then I looked into it, I researched it, and pórtate bien. And then I kind of stopped feeling the fetal movements, and but then again, I had an interior placenta, and when you have an interior placenta, you don't feel the baby movements as much. So I figured, I didn't think twice about it. Like, I didn't really think that there was much correlation between that vaccine and then all the things that I was experiencing. I thought, well, I'm towards the end of the pregnancy. This is what happens. But then when I could not, so I got really worried. So it was like 2 weeks later where I really could not feel my child at all for like.
So you're about 30 what weeks now?
Almost 37.
Almost 37.
So for 2 weeks, I couldn't move. I couldn't work. I couldn't wear heels. I couldn't do anything. I was just lying down, just feeling. I had terrible insomnia. I was feeling ill. I was not feeling well at all. So then I called, I had Kaiser at the time, and they said, well, you need to come in. So I came in, they did the ultrasound, they're like, we need to do an emergency cesarean on you.
Why?
They couldn't tell me a reason. They said that my son was just not doing very well. He wasn't thriving, and if we waited any longer, so I think the vaccine affected the child.
Right.
I mean, at the time, right? So he was born about a month early or so, and it was a traumatic experience for me because they separated my child from me. I couldn't even nurse him, nothing. It was just terrible. I eventually nursed him until he was almost 5 years of age. Yeah, I nursed my son for 5 years. I think that helped him out too, on top of not getting any vaccines. But as a result of that Tdap, my symptoms worsened, actually. I couldn't even carry my child. I was in so much pain. So I told I had a wonderful doctor at Kaiser. She was a DO, little Vietnamese lady. The day that I told her I didn't want vaccines with my child, she said, oh, okay, so you're choosing natural immunity? Yes. And we never discussed.
So no vitamin K at all after cesarean?
He got the vitamin K.
Oh, that's annoying.
That gave him jaundice. That gave him jaundice. He had to get the phototherapy and this and that. But I think, and they were pushing that vaccine, the hepatitis B. I said, no. And they were trying to get me. Siéntate bonito, si quieres. You're going to talk in a minute, okay? And then, So I told the doctor about my symptoms. You know, I can't even carry my child. I'm in so much pain. I can't even bend my knees. So she did testing on me, and then I was told that I have lupus. I got diagnosed with the autoimmune disease. And here I am, a healthy woman wearing 5-6 inch heels, you know, during her pregnancy.
And you still are. Let me show the people.
Sure.
Still is. Look at that.
Yeah. So long
How are
story.
you walking up? That's me.
Oh, I can run a marathon.
That's me.
I know.
And that's her.
I can run a marathon.
Sorry, you're going off subject.
So no, it's okay. So I ended up getting. So of course the typical. Oh, we're going to refer you to rheumatology. And I remember interpreting back in the days because I'm a medical interpreter, and I remember interpreting for like lupus patients and how they looked and the medications that they would have to take, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I contacted a biochemist by the name of Dr. Raymond P. Long story short, he saved me. I did exactly what he told me to do. I got the things that he wanted me to take, and within a year I got rid of all that antibodies, all those lupus, and I was basically saved. And then here my son.
And so how did you get out of the pediatrician hounding you while you've got an unvaccinated child?
So the same doctor, the DO, the little lady, she was the same doctor, my son's.
Okay.
So we shared the same doctor, and she never pushed a vaccine on me.
And look how healthy he is. Oh, is he? Tell me about him. Is he
Healthy.
healthy? Are you healthy?
¿Está hablando la señora?
You are?
Yes. Yes.
What's the most sick that you've ever been in your life?
Oh, you've gotten a cold?
Yes.
You sneezed a few times?
Yes.
Mild fever. Goes away after a day or two. But even with a little sickness, because inevitably, you know, going to preschool, he was eating, playing, drinking, no issues.
And kids are supposed to get the cold and sniffles and sneezes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Part of
No,
that,
the
right?
healthiest. He's bright. He's compassionate. He's lovely. He's a little impatient because I promised him I was going to take him to.
Where are you going?
Te está hablando, a ver, háblale. Te están filmando, háblale. Where are you going? Bullwinkles? Bullwinkles.
What is that? No
It's
idea.
like a place to play, and
Oh,
they have
so that's
arcade
cool.
games.
So that's your bribe for coming here.
A little bride. Little bride. No, but I think it was important for people to see
Yeah.
and know that, you know, that vaccines do not offer, they don't offer protection. And I think we know by now that those coronavirus vaccines did not provide any, they didn't prevent infection or protection or transmission.
Is there anything that would make you take a vaccination ever again, you or your child?
Never.
Even if there's a pandemic of the worst case of bird flu you've ever seen?
No. There are no safe or effective vaccines. There will never be. And I was vaccine injured. I've seen a lot of vaccine injury and death. Working as a medical interpreter, I witnessed death. I saw a dead child in front of me. I actually had to get therapy because of it, because I lost my, huge career as an on-site medical interpreter because I refused to get the vaccines. That was a mandate.
Talking about the COVID shots now, you did not get the COVID shots. Did you give the COVID shot to your child?
No.
Why not?
Or my dead body? Why not? No.
Just asking.
Do you want a vaccine, Shaw? No way. No. He knows.
Did you get COVID?
No.
So you didn't get COVID, you didn't get the shot?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I don't get sick. I mean, I take care of myself. I take care of the way I eat. Everything's natural, organic, whole foods. You know, my son's nutrition is of utmost importance. He was breastfed. He never had a thing of formula. I actually had to buy the breast milk too. On top of me breastfeeding him, there was a group of moms who were selling their surplus of milk, and I spent thousands of dollars on it, but it was worth it for my son to have the breast milk over formula. And he's a healthy eater. He does quite well. He's the greatest.
He's bored right now. is what
He's
he
so
is.
bored. Para de hacer esas cosas.
Say goodbye to us in French.
A ver, despídete en francés.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. ¿Y en español?
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Wow, you guys are fantastic. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say?
I adore you. I'm so proud of you. All of you. This was important for me to be here. And I don't care if people will recognize me. And I'm still in the medical field. Though I did a little bit of, I kind of went over into the legal sector of interpreting. But yes, I am very proud for all the decisions that I have made.
You should be. You should be. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll let you go to your play place
Yes,
now.
we're going to go play. Dile bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. We should be listening to these mothers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago.
This is the most important thing. There's nothing more important than that.
This guy is staking his presidency on ending the autism epidemic, and he talked about vaccines.
We want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine.
We didn't know if he was actually going to touch on vaccines, and he was all over it.
There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B.
He basically gave parents permission not to vaccinate their kids, and definitely not to take Tylenol.
We now have data we cannot ignore. There is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder.
The truth is, vaccine injuries are real and they've been ignored.
Society does not want to acknowledge vaccine injury, period.
These childhood vaccinations, the people of America are telling us they are not safe and effective. We are seriously concerned at Children's Health Defense about the disinformation and misinformation out there.
The government has decided that this particular industry doesn't have to be liable to anybody.
There's only 10% of children are complying with the CDC's recommendation on COVID boosters.
A record number of kindergartners didn't get at least one state-mandated vaccine.
And the number of exemptions is up.
Vaccination rates in children start to drop once again.
A 16-year-old girl wins in court after the public school system denied her medical vaccine exemption.
The nonprofit Children's Health Defense has championed her case.
Sarah Doe is going to be going here.
Health and Human Services is reestablishing the task force on safer childhood vaccines. This comes after a lawsuit from an advocacy group formerly led by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.